Shabbat Shalom. If you're a little on the freezing side, it's not just you. I thought walking around with the Torah would warm me up, but it didn't. The color red is my absolute favorite color, but I have been known to make space in my life for black and for gray. When it comes to hair and skin products, I definitely prefer Aveda, but I still use a slew of other companies' cosmetics. I love driving my little SUV, but sometimes I'll get behind the wheel of our older sedan. My husband, he knows that I love chocolate, but last weekend, on Saturday night, when we went to the restaurant Shuk Kitchen, I ordered a dessert that was mostly date and cardamom, and it was delicious if you ever go there, but I love chocolate. Like every single one of us, I have favorites. We all do. Think about it. Beach vacation or active sightseeing vacation? Chocolate or vanilla? Jerusalem or Tel Aviv? Do you prefer and favor one, but sometimes indulge in the other? Do you have a favorite holiday, but still celebrate the others? I'm pretty certain little Lennon, whose Hebrew name is Esther Leah, she's gonna love Purim when she gets older, but she's still gonna like all the others. Now, I'm not sure where favoritism stemmed from, but it has been everywhere in the Torah, up until including this week. God favored Cain over Abel. Sarah favored Isaac over Ishmael, big time. Isaac, Yitzchak, he favored Esav. Rebecca, Rivka, she favored Jacob. And as for Jacob, what did we read? Ve'Yisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav. Israel loved Joseph best of all of his sons. Did Jacob make it completely obvious that he favored Joseph so that the other children would despise Joseph? Oh yes. Did he get his other kids a special gift? That would be a hard no. Did Jacob learn anything from his parents? Apparently not. The author Stephen Mitchell, he writes that there is a big difference between having favorites and playing favorites. Joseph was Jacob's favorite, and as a result, he got crystal clear, obvious preferential treatment. Now, as someone who has taught for many, many years, I've here and there had a favorite student in a class, but I never made the other students feel less than about it. And I assume it's the same when someone has more than one child. Now, Jacob, Yaakov, he had many children. And as a result of his favoritism to Yosef, he was not able to be a good father to the rest of his children. Let's go back. Chapter 37, verse 2. Vayaveh Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihem. Joseph brought bad reports about his brothers to their father. Maybe you would expect the Torah to inform us that Jacob admonished Joseph for this. Maybe Jacob would have said, Yosela, it's not so nice to tattletale, sweet boy. This is not what we do in our family. But I guess Jacob and I parent differently, because this is the next verse. Verse 3. V'Yisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav, ki ben zekunim hu lo ve'asa lo ketonet pasim. Now Israel loved Joseph best of all of his sons, for he was the child of his old age, and he made him this ketonet pasim, this multicolored, embroidered, beautiful coat. Perhaps the commentators were embarrassed by Jacob's behavior, they make excuses for him. Here's one. It's from Chizkuni. He's a 13th century French commentator. He explains that the word pasim, of ketonet pasim, the multicolored coat, can be seen as compensation for being a half-orphan, for not having a mother anymore. So according to Chizkuni, Yaakov tried to compensate him by having a costly garment custom made for him. And he did this so he wouldn't feel bad for not having a mother? Joseph was the apple of his father's eye. And he acted like a three-nager. And despite his behavior, he was still given this wonderful gift. Because he had a different mother? I feel this to be a little weak. The next verse underscores the family dynamic even more. Vayir'u achav, ki oto ahav avihem mikol achav, vayisnu oto, velo yochlu dabru leshalom. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of his other brothers, they hated him, vayisnu oto, so that they could not even speak a friendly word to him. Can you imagine those dinner table experiences? Jacob would be focusing on his beloved son, and all the while his brothers would complain under their breath about how unfair it was. How could their father reward such poor behavior? Joseph's dreams changed the situation a little bit. Verses 9 and 10. He dreamed another dream, and he told it to his brothers, saying, "Look, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." And when he told it to his brothers, his father and his brothers, his father berated him. "Ma hachalom hazeh asher chalamta?" "What is this dream that you dreamed?" Jacob said. "Are we to come, I and your mother and your brothers, and bow low to you to the ground?" That pasuk, that verse, that was the light bulb moment for Jacob. Because for years he had put Yosef up on a pedestal, but at that moment, he finally understood the effects of his son's behavior. And it was very late in the game. But it was then that he realized his mistake. Rabbi Sachs wrote in Covenant and Conversation back in 2017 the following right about this. Our failures, seen in retrospect many years later, turn out to have been our deepest learning experiences. Our hindsight is always more perceptive than our foresight. We live life facing the future, but we understand life only when it has become our past. Nowhere is this set out more clearly than in the story of Joseph in this week's Parsha. He continues, it begins on a high note. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his brothers because he was the son of his old age, and he made him this richly embroidered robe. But with dramatic speed, that love and that gift turn out to be Joseph's undoing. His brothers began hating him, and when he told them his dream, they hated him even more, and his second dream offended even his father. As a teacher and as a parent, I have made many mistakes. And sometimes I only realize them after. Sometimes in real hindsight. I think that Rabbi Sachs' comment, our failures seen in retrospect many years later, turn out to have been our deepest learning experiences, that resonates more the older that we become. Not to be an apologist for him, but I think Jacob, he couldn't see what he was doing at first. Maybe he took what he learned from watching his parents choose their favorite children. That was the only model that he knew. It's not like there were parenting manuals back then. Again, Stephen Mitchell, he had never learned impartiality. His parents' favoritism had seeped into the very organs of his perceptions. His favoritism transformed into arrogance and entitlement in Joseph, and in the brothers, in a toxic resentment. Halavai, if only Yaakov had realized how harmful his behavior was earlier in the story. Yes, it's true that we learn from our examples, but sometimes we learn from them what not to do. How our story would have been different had Jacob learned from his parents. Unfortunately, he did not. May we all be blessed with the ability to continue learning from our mistakes and maybe even have the foresight to avoid making them in the first place. Shabbat Shalom.